Dawn Sullivan arrived in New York from her native Australia in 1958. Quickly cast in the limelight, she became the spokesperson for Australian tourism and traveled throughout the US and Canada, appearing on local and national TV with a kangaroo named Wacky the Wallaby. In 1960, she married Tim Sullivan, and together they had 3 children. Raised in a family where philanthropy work and volunteer duties were not only encouraged but also expected, Dawn began volunteering and fundraising at a local Sydney orphanage at age 16. Dawn also became an intricate part of fundraising and event planning at each of her children's schools.
Most people don't realize that Mom was involved in a lot more than just tenants' rights. She was incredibly involved in her kids' lives. She was the head of our PTAs at all of our schools. She ran the block associations.
In the early 1970s, Dawn became locally active with the 19th Precinct Community Council.
It really worked. I mean, it just worked. It was something about her. She was really genuine.
In 1971, Dawn joined local organizations in the fight for tenants' rights. In 1980, together with members of the Lenox Hill Housing Group, she founded the East Side Tenant Coalition, and it became her life's passion.
Without Dawn and the East Side Tenant Coalition, there would have been not a lot of activity. They made the tenant movement in this city.
She became a force on the whole East Side, and the fact that she reached out to other tenant associations, including our own.
I still see her leading her flock through the halls of the state capitol, visiting and lobbying all the legislators there on tenants' rights.
ESTC chartered buses. It is not easy to get working people or retired people or people who are disabled or elderly on a bus at 5:30 or 6 in the morning to go 3 hours north, to go lobby state senators in the marble halls of the state capitol, which involves miles of walking, to coordinate the lobbying efforts, which she did, to give us tip sheets, which she did, to give us advice about how to approach individual legislators, and in her case specifically, she could talk to Democrats and Republicans and independents, was able to assert herself and make her way through the minefields of New York politics as a non-native New Yorker, make her way through the minefields of New York state politics in Albany, and be known as a power to reckon with. And that's one of the reasons I thought she was really valuable. She was also a good friend. She also had a sense of humor, which makes organizing just so much more fun. The direct assistance she provided at tabling at street fairs, where she was insistent she wanted to be out there in the public and be available to people, and she would sit there all day long.
A lot of tenants would stop by. I mean, Dawn knew her stuff, I know my stuff, and we got it done. I mean, we recruited a lot of people to come and support the tenant movement.
In those days, there was no computer wisdom like we have now, but Dawn, she was the wizard. She was the walking encyclopedia on tenants' rights. She was working with not only the tenants groups, but she was working with tenants on a one-on-one basis. And she would go into their homes and she would help them with their physical moving, she would help them with legal problems, whatever she could do, she did.
She got results. There was no, there was no try, there was do.
Your mother, I think was motivated also by a sort of broader view. She understood that, if we didn't have an affordable housing stock in New York, you couldn't do anything. The actor that was aspiring to come here that will become the star, the playwright, a scientist who wants to do research, the student, what makes New York great? What makes even the stockbroker who wants to come here and make a killing?
The tenant movement needs her. Unfortunately, we don't have her anymore. I mean, I'm doing now with the citywide task force, so we're doing stuff now. But it's always kind of after, not before, so it's like an afterthought. When people are already in trouble instead of preventing the trouble.
It's amazing that she, was able to raise, 3 kids and do everything that she did. So she ended up being all of our hero and our inspiration for what we do.
I miss my mother, and a lot of people miss my mother, but I think New York really misses somebody like my mother.
Since she's gone, it hasn't been the same. I mean, Dawn was it, and she was great.
Well, with the passing of Dawn, I think that the tenants' rights movement on the East Side and beyond, its heart stopped beating.
I think now here we are reviving an organization like Dawn had for years, for decades, and it's taking all of these folks to, in one way or another, to replace one person and a handful of her faithful volunteers.
I think that she would be pleased that the East Side Housing Coalition is trying to continue her work in a material way and build on her legacy. And all the thousands of people she helped and all the thousands of people that worked with her over the years, you know, are still around, are still active in her memory, and as I said at her memorial, focused on what she would want us to be focused on, which is affordable, decent housing for all New Yorkers.